What's up, everyone? It's UnsungNPC here with the Magus class. The Magus class is a super fun class. I thoroughly enjoyed the Magus. I don't believe it's actually as difficult as they say it is to run with this class. Maybe with the recommended build, because Lord knows what that is. They are very high melee, depending on the archetype. Very high magic. And a little bit of some other stuff. So yeah, some of the key features: spell combat. Okay, this is gonna be your cast and slash class. A great time. Now if we take a look here, they have high fortitude, high will, and low reflex. That's 2 high saves. We love a class with 2 high saves. They don't all have them, but we love it when they do. They have a 3-4 BAB average, okay? They have up to 6 level spells. They use intelligence depending on the archetype. And they memorize their spells like a wizard does, depending on the archetype. Okay? But for the base archetype, intelligence, memorize your spells. Both knowledges, use magic device, which is actually a pretty important skill depending on how you build your mages. Athletics, and persuasion. Okay, so here we go. Mages are proficient with light armor and all weapons besides exotic. You have to earn those proficiencies. Okay, eventually they will get the ability to do medium and heavy armor while casting magic, as you can see here. Level 7 and level 13, medium and then heavy. But right now, they can wear light armor without incurring the arcane spell failure chance, which is awesome. We love an armored spellcaster. They get their little cantrips, and they have an arcane pool, which is equal to half your level plus your intelligence modifier. Your arcane pool is what you do to do certain magus abilities and also enhance your weapon. Okay, you can give yourself an enhancement +1 bonus for 1 minute as a swift action, and then for every 4 levels beyond 1, eventually to +5, you'll gain more enhancement bonuses. On top of that, at 5th level, you'll also start to gain certain abilities for your weapon to have instead of the regular enhancement bonus. Flaming burst, frost, icy burst, keen, shock, shocking burst, or speed. Okay, the elements do what they say. All right, the burst just makes it an AoE instead. Keen increases your critical threat range. So if you have to roll a 19 or 20 to crit, keen makes it to where you roll an 18 to 20 to crit. Okay, and then speed gives you another attack. Next, you get spell combat. Spell combat allows you to do a slash and a cast in 1 turn. So what it does is, if you use a one-handed or a light melee weapon, which I think are also one-handed, then as a full round action, you can make all of your attacks with your melee weapon at a -2 penalty to each of them, and then also cast a spell at the same time, as long as the spell has a standard action casting time. Okay? If it's a swift action casting time, you don't have to use this to do it. You can just cast and then hit like a normal person. And if it's longer than standard action, you're not going to be able to cast it. But again, this gives all of your attacks a -2 to their melee attack. Alright? And then eventually you get improved spell combat. At 8th level, you get a +2 bonus to concentration checks when casting spells. Now, concentration checks is what you have to roll when you're trying to cast a spell while like being hit, while being threatened by someone. Okay, so that +2 to concentration is going to be very useful for you. Greater spell combat increases that check to +4, okay? And then greater spell access at 19th level gives you 6 spells to learn from any 1st to 6th level spell list from the wizard spell list. So any of those 1st to 6th level spells that you didn't get as a Magus, you can take them as long as they're from the wizard spell list. You get 6 of them. 6. Okay? You also get bonus feats. So Magus bonus feats, they pretty much work like, I think most of them are, I think it's like combat bonus feats, essentially. Yeah, it's what it seems to be. They're bonus combat feats, and also there's bonus magic feats. So it kind of combines the ability, like, so fighters get bonus combat, wizards get bonus magic feats. Mages can take either magic feats or combat feats, but there's no like skill focus or general feats. But you get 3 of those. Alright, and then you also get fighter training, which is that at 10th level, you count half your total level for your fighter level for the purpose of qualifying for fighter-related feats. Okay? That means there's going to be some things that you have to take a lot lighter than a fighter could if you want those feats. That's okay. At least you get some fighter training in there. And then you get Magus Arcana. Magus Arcana gives you different abilities that you can take, some of which seem to be, you know, just meta magic feats. And then a lot of different blade abilities and some other wand abilities and some things. So we'll kind of go over what these are. But you get one of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You'll get 6 of them total, okay? Now, you get Arcane Accuracy, where you spend a point from your Arcane pool as a swift action to give yourself an Intelligence modifier bonus to your attack roll for 1 turn, which is cool. Bane Blade, spend a point from your Arcane pool to basically enhance your weapon with the Bane special ability. So whenever you're doing your enhancement bonus on your weapon, you spend another point of your Arcane pool to give it the Bane ability. And the Bane ability does, I think, 2d6 extra damage on the creature that you're hitting. So that's a nice chunk right there. Devoted Blade gives you anarchic, axiomatic, holy, or unholy special abilities basically added to your list of enhancement abilities that you can give your weapon, enhancement properties, but they can only be added if they match your own alignment. It says that you can only add 1 if it matches your own alignment. Dimension Strike, you spend 2 points from your Arcane pool as a swift action, resolve all of your melee weapon attacks as melee touch attacks. That ability is one that I definitely recommend taking earlier on rather than later. There's so many different demons in this game that have high armor but actually pretty low touch AC, and the Dimension Strike does a very good job of being able to bypass that issue, basically. Meta magic feats, you get Empowered, Extended, Maximized, Quickened, Reach. And if you want to know what those are, you can go to my magic feats video and check that out. Enduring Blade, whenever you enhance your weapon, add an additional point from your Arcane pool to increase the duration from 1 minute to 1 minute per level, which I think is actually really cool. That makes you really get more bang for your buck with your Arcane points this way, because you don't have to constantly spend them to enhance your weapon. You can just spend an extra one and it changes it to 1 minute per level, and you just keep that one going for a long time. Ghost Blade. You can add Brilliant Energy and Ghost Touch special abilities to your weapon options for enhancement. Ghost Touch allows you to, hit those incorporeal creatures, which isn't very useful here. Brilliant Energy, I forget exactly what that does, but I know that Finian gets a Brilliant Energy weapon ability, and I remember it being really good. So, Brilliant Energy is good. Ghost Touch, not so great in my opinion. It's up to you to determine what you would want to take. Hasted Assault, 1 point from your Arcane pool as a swift action to give yourself haste, but only targets you and lasts for a number of rounds equal to your intelligence mod. So basically, spend a point, grant yourself haste, for a number of rounds equal to your intelligence modifier, and I actually think that's a really cool ability. Haste is one of the most needed powerful spells in any Pathfinder campaign, and being able to just spend a point from your arcane pool and call it a day is really nice. Really nice. Prescient attack. Spend a point. That's a swift action. Basically, it allows your enemies to be denied dexterity bonus against your attacks. Makes them flat-footed, essentially. It makes your enemies all flat-footed, which is cool. I think this one works really well earlier on, because flat-footed ACs tend to be pretty low, but I think that Dimension Strike is better, because Tech ACs tend to be lower than flat-footed, especially for high-armored demons, but still cool. Next, you have Wand Mastery. What Wand Mastery does is that when you use a wand, it allows you to calculate the DC using your intelligence modifier instead of whatever the wand says to cast that spell. And then Wand Wielder allows you to use a wand or staff in place of casting a spell when using spell combat. So if you have a wand or a staff that grants you spells to use, you can use those spells instead of your spells when doing spell combat. I think both of these are cool for a use magic device build, which I think are pretty strong. I love use magic device builds. I think there's a lot of wands, there's a lot of scrolls, there's a lot of things that you could be using that extend the amount of resources you have, basically, which is super neat. Super neat. And then at level 20, you get True Magus. At True Magus, whenever you use spell combat, you do not have to make a concentration check to cast a spell defensively. Basically, you're just able to cast it defensively. And then whenever you use spell combat, you can choose to either increase the DC by 2, increase any checks to overcome spell resistance, your spell penetration by 2, or increase your attack rolls by 2, which is really, really cool. It's just a nice little +2. You get this pretty late, but them's the breaks. That is how it works there. And then at second level, you get Spell Strike. Spell Strike, when a magus casts a spell with the range of touch from the magus spell list, you are able to use it as part of your melee weapon attack. So basically, instead of being able to hit and then do the touch spell, you channel the touch spell into your blade and then just hit them both at once. Okay? This is a very, very key ability for you to use here. I tend to pair this with Touch of Fatigue as like a baseline. If you're not casting any specific spell, Touch of Fatigue is always a good one to just have on hand, because there's no downside to just making someone fatigue for basically a round or whatever, and it's just good to use. Like, there's no penalty to doing so. You just do it, okay? But if you have other touch spells you want to use later on and do that kind of touch spell build, this is a perfect way to do that. But remember, you can use other spells with spell combat. They don't have to be touch spells. That's something I often forget with the mages. Just keep it in mind. Next, you have Spell Recall. So at 4th level, you can use your arcane pool to recall spells you've already cast. So as a swift action, basically you can recall any spell that you have already prepared and already cast. So if you've expended one of your spells, you can spend a point equal to the spell's level. So if it's a 6th level spell, you spend 6 points, and then you get that spell back. Nice little ability there. And then Improved Spell Recall. When you're using Spell Recall, you expend a number of points equal to half the spell's level instead. So basically, you get this after you get 4th level spells, so you're never going to have to spend more than 4 points for a spell, and then after you get this, you'll never have to spend more than 3 points for a spell to come back, which is really cool. You're never going to have to go to 5 or 6 points. So Spell Recall, I think, is a really cool ability. It's not as great as having like an arcane implement to just give yourself a spell back, a spell slot back, but it is really nice. It is really nice. I quite enjoy it. But that's the base Magus. It's a powerful class in its own right. It gives you some flexibility in combat to be someone who can take in the front lines and fight and also cast spells when they need to. It's their little fighter wizard going on here. Next we have Arcane Rider. Okay, Arcane Rider is very similar to the Magus, but one key difference. You get a horse. You can have the horse or the black horse if you have that option. It's horse only though. You get Arcane Mount, so Arcane Rider's abilities that spend Arcane Pool also apply to your mount. So any ability that you get that you spend points on also applies to your horse. So if you enhance your weapon, you also enhance your horse, which is cool. Actually really cool. That's a lot of attack power. And then you get mounted combat feats as bonus feat options. So it's the same bonus feat list, just adding in mounted combat onto the list. You also give up your ability to spell recall, and you give up your ability to medium and heavy armor. In exchange, you get Dimensional Ride, where you spend 1 point from your arcane pool and a move action to basically teleport you and your horse 30 feet. Which is cool. A little dimensional hop for you and the horse. And then Greater Dimensional Ride. So now you can use it as a swift action instead of a move action. And after teleporting, you gain the effect of the haste spell for a number of rounds equal to your intelligence bonus. That's actually really cool. You bloop, and then you're super fast. Bloop, super fast. So, yeah, you give up the armor, but I think the difference there is that you get a horse. So, like, the horse is going to be taking the hits, not you. So now your job is to protect the horse. It kind of sucks that they don't give you mobility as a class skill with the Arcane Rider, considering it's kind of key for being good with the horse or any animal companion that you ride. So I think that's an oversight. You really should have given you the mobility skill to do that, but it is what it is. Other ability I forgot to mention in the base class, my bad, Counter-Strike. So whenever an enemy within reach casts a spell defensively, that enemy provokes an attack of opportunity for you. So if you're attacking a spellcaster and they successfully cast a spell, you then get to hit them. So just note that you get to do that. But yeah, Arcane Rider is pretty cool. I like Arcane Rider a lot. I think out of the mounted combat classes, this is one of the more interesting. I mean, you're magic cavalry. How cool is that? Next, we have Armored Battle Mage. Armored Battle Mage definitely changes up the game here. So one of the key changes is that you get medium armor from the get-go and heavy armor at 7th instead of medium at 7th. So you get your armors early. And then instead of giving yourself enhancement bonus to your weapon and doing spell combat, you get enhancement bonus to your armor. So you'll add +1, eventually +5 to your armor as enhancement bonus, and then you gain the abilities Balanced, Bitter, Fortification for heavy, light, or medium, Ghost Touch, Invulnerability, Spell Resistance at different levels, or Spell Storing. Now, what all of those do, I honestly don't know. I don't know what each of these does. Arcane Armor Balanced gives you +4 CMD against Grapple, Trip, and Overrun, which probably not that needed in this campaign. Fortification, I still don't quite know what Fortification does, to be honest. It's interesting. Different resistances, Arcane Armor, Greater Shadow, +15 to Stealth skills. That's really cool. Spell Resistance obviously gives you spell resistance. We all know what that does, okay? But again, Invulnerability grants you DR5 magic. Okay? But yeah, again, heavy fortification. I don't know what the fortification does. If any of you know what fortification does, this is just a tabletop rule that I don't even know. Feel free to put that in the comments. That's something that I don't quite know what it does. And instead of spell combat, you get armor training as per the fighter ability. And eventually you'll get armor training 4. Okay. So armor training is going to increase the amount of dex allowed with your armor and decrease your armor penalty. It does those things. So it just basically Armored Battle Mage changes everything from offensive weapon casting to defensive armor casting. So you're using your magic and your enhanced armor to just make yourself an armored behemoth, which I think is really cool. I love heavy armor classes a lot, and I thoroughly enjoy the idea of being this like magic tank. I love magic tank, so very cool. Next is Eldritch Archer. Eldritch Archer, basically instead of doing spell combat, you get ranged spell combat. So you don't have to have a free hand. You can use a bow in both hands and do magic. And then, yeah, you're just doing ranged spell combat instead of melee. But it still works the same other than that. And then eventually you get ranged spell strike instead of spell strike. And ranged spell strike allows you to deliver a spell that calls for a ranged touch attack or a ranged attack in general, doesn't have to be touch, as part of your archer hit. It has to be a ranged attack, so you can't do AoEs like fireball with this. Ranged attack means that it calls for you to roll an attack roll for it. So maybe something like Hellfire Ray would be a better example. So shoot an arrow, launch Hellfire Ray at him. Be pretty cool. This is basically Magus, except you're ranged instead of this. So this is equivalent to the Magus base class. It's just ranged instead of melee. So if you prefer ranged fighting instead of melee fighting, this will be the class for you. Instead of use magic device, you also gain perception as a class skill. So note that as well. I think the purpose of that is that you can't use a wand and a staff with a bow at the same time. It's not possible to do both. Okay? You have to do one or the other. So that's the Eldritch Archer. Pretty much the same, other than that. Eldritch Scion. Once again, we're changing up the game here. Eldritch Scion is a charisma caster, not intelligence, and they cast spontaneously. They don't memorize. Okay? That's Eldritch Scion. It's a bloodline. This is a sorcerer magus. This is using a sorcerer magus. So your bloodline, you get a bloodline like a sorcerer would. Okay? You get different cantrips, which somehow still look the same. Okay? Eldritch Pull uses charisma instead of intelligence. Duh. Other than that, you're still doing the same arcane weapon stuff. Improved spell combat is the same. You're just getting things a little bit later. Okay? So your Magus Arcana is the same. I don't know why they changed it. It's literally all the same things. It's literally all the same things. So no changes there. I don't know what they're doing there. But they're the same positioning. Okay. Arcane Pool. Arcane Weapon. Okay. Arcane Weapon 3 is still here. Arcane Weapon 4 is still here. Arcane Weapon 5 is still here. And then improved spell combat and greater spell combat come a step later, but they are still there. Arcane Weapon 3 is on here. They're all on here twice. I don't know what that means. I think it's a typo thing. I don't think that's actually supposed to happen. But note that that stays the same, and improved spell combat and greater spell combat both just come later. Okay? Magus Arcana is the same, it's just called Eldritch Arcana now. All of that's the same. You lose spell recall, but that makes sense because it's your spontaneous caster now. You can't recall memorized spells because you don't have any memorized spells. And then you get your bloodline. And then obviously you can take any of the bloodlines that you can from any other bloodline type class. And you get all the abilities and spells that go with it. So I find Eldritch Scion to be powerful, especially for the main character, because Persuasion is such a good skill for the main character, so being charisma based is pretty handy. I prefer spontaneous casters to memorized casters, I do. And also bloodline powers are just, you know, if you pick the right ones, they're just infinitely better than any other type of ability thing you're gonna take. They're very, very powerful and important. So Eldritch Scion. Magus, but in my opinion, better. I would even go as far as to say that this is Magus Plus. I'm not going to officially because it is just changing the whole thing from intelligence to charisma. So if you want to be an intelligence character, obviously you're not going to pick this one. But I do think it's better of the two. For sure. Especially since Sorcerer spell list and Wizard spell lists are like virtually the same. Like there's not really that much of a difference. So like they're the same. Okay. Hex Crafter. So Hex Crafter, all that Hex Crafter does is it takes away spell recall, takes away all but one of your Magus Arcanas, and it gives you hexes, Hex Arcana. So Hex Arcana seems to be the same stuff, except you get the Ice Plant Hex, which does +2 natural armor bonus permanently. The Nails Hex, which gives you a 1d3 like claw attack. And the Hex Channeler Channel Energy Hex, which allows you to channel energy by like 1d6, and then if you keep taking it, you'll eventually you can increase that over time if you want. But yeah, it just adds those 3 to it. And then you get right here spells added. You get Blindness, Bestow Curse, and Nature's Exile. Okay, adds those. Oh, and then at 12th level, you get the major hexes. You can take Agony, Animal Skin, Beast Gift, Delicious Fright, Horror Frost, Major Ameliorating, Major Healing, Regenerative Sinew, Restless Slumber, and then eventually Animal Servant, Death Curse, Later Rest, and Life Giver. And you can pause the video to check out what those are. I'm also going to go more into depth about all of the hexes when I get into a witch video where the hexes come from. So you're just getting a lot of different hex things. It's the same, but hexes, the spells seem to be the same as well. But yeah, still intelligence, still memorizing. You're just changing the regular Arcana to Hex Arcana, Hex abilities. You add a few spells of the 6th level or lower that have curse in their name or in the descriptor. So Blindness, Bestow Curse, Nature's Exile, that kind of thing. I think this is pretty cool. It doesn't take away the original options. It just adds more. So if you want to be an intelligence magus, I feel like this is pretty much the same. I think this might be Magus Plus. Yeah, you're getting rid of spell recall to be able to do this, but honestly, the hexes are better than spell recall. I mean, Ice Plant alone is a permanent +2 to your natural armor AC. That's huge. That's a huge ability, and all these other ones can get pretty crazy too. So I would say Hex Crafter would be the optimal choice for a regular Magus. I wouldn't go regular Magus, I would go Hex Crafter. Next we have Spell Dancer. Spell Dancer is the elf-only archetype. Okay? It changes some things, not all, but it does get rid of some things, okay? You only get light armor. You don't get medium or heavy, ever. You lose 1 bonus feat, and you lose Arcane Pool. Okay? You lose your Arcane Pool. Instead, you get Spell Dance. So as a Spell Dancer, you can spend 1 point from your Arcane Pool as a swift action to gain a plus 10 enhancement bonus to your movement and a plus 2 dodge bonus to AC against attacks of opportunity for a whole minute. And then this increases every 4 levels, increasing that AC by 2 and increasing that speed by 10. Okay, so you don't lose Arcane Pool, but you lose your enhancement bonus ability. You're not giving it to your enhancement bonus. You're instead increasing movement speed and dodge bonus against attacks of opportunity. At 5th level, whenever you cast a spell, you can gain a competence bonus to mobility and stealth skill checks equal to the spell's level that you cast until your next turn. At 7th level, you gain a plus 2 insight bonus to AC, flat out, whenever you're wearing light armor or no armor. And then at 13th level, when wearing light armor or no armor, that bonus to AC increases to plus 4. Okay? So this is a light armor or no armor elf-only spell class. And instead of enhancing your weapon, you're enhancing your movement and your dodge, because you're a dancer. You love to dance. And that's what you do here. You're moving around the battlefield, dancing like crazy, and slashing people as you go, casting spells. That is the Spell Dancer. It's pretty okay. If you like a more mobile class, I feel like this one's for you. I probably wouldn't mess with it, but that's just me. And then next we have Sword Saint, which is like, if you want to be a duelist, but you also want magic, then the Sword Saint class is for you. Sword Saint is one of my favorite archetypes in the game, and is honestly a really fun class to play with. So, as a Sword Saint, you don't get armor proficiency. You gain simple weapon proficiency and proficiency with a weapon of your choice. You get a chosen weapon, okay? The chosen weapon, I'm pretty sure it needs to be a sword, okay? But it can be a single martial or exotic melee weapon of your choice. You're not proficient with armor or shields, okay? And then at 1st level, you also gain weapon focus with this chosen weapon as a bonus feat, which I think is a really powerful way to start off. You also get canny defense. So 1 point of your intelligence bonus per mage's class level, however much intelligence bonus you have, gets added to your AC, which is awesome. And it gets added to all of your AC except for flat-footed. Okay, it's not flat-footed increase. I really like that. You lose spell recall, you lose the armor, the fighter training, all of that. You get fighter training at 7th level instead of 9th level. Okay? And instead of it being half your level, it's your level minus 3 for your fighter level. So you're gaining a little bit more fighter level than you normally would as a magus. Okay? And by a little bit, I mean a lot of it. So at level 20 as a regular magus, you'd have fighter level 10. At level 20 as a sword saint, you'd have fighter level 17. It's a lot. You get perfect strike. Perfect strike. When you spend a point from your arcane pool, you can maximize your weapon damage. Don't roll for damage, you deal maximum damage. This affects only the weapon's base damage dice, not any additional from any special, hullabaloo or whatever. If it confirms a crit, you can instead spend 2 points of the arcane pool to increase the weapon's critical multiplier by 1, which is huge. Especially since there are melee weapons that start with like ×3 crit, you can make that ×4. Okay. You get a lightning draw, so you add intelligence to your initiative on top of dexterity. It's not in place of, it's added to dexterity. So high initiative from both of those. At 9th level, you get critical perfection, add intelligence bonus to your critical hit confirmation rolls. And then in addition, you may use your Magus levels in place of attack bonuses to qualify for any feats, including those critical focus feats, because the critical focus stuff, I can't remember if it's critical focus or improved critical, but one of those two requires a certain BAB, a certain base attack bonus, but you can instead use your Magus level for that, which is awesome. You get lethal focus. So when attacking a flat-footed opponent, you add intelligence modifier to damage. Basically, it pays to have a high intelligence, okay? And then you get weapon mastery instead of true mages. At 20th level, whenever you attack with your chosen weapon, you automatically confirm all crits, and your damage multiplier is increased by 1. Automatically. That is on top of the bonus to increase it by 1 if you wanted to do that. So you can still do the thing where you increase it by 1, and then you also have it increased by 1 as a weapon master. So that's, you know, you could get like times 5, times 6, but like critical multiplier, which is huge. Superior reflexes. You can make a number of attacks of opportunity in a round equal to your intelligence modifier. It stacks with combat reflexes, and it stacks with the mythic ability that does the same. That's a lot of attacks of opportunity. And then at 19th level, you get perfect reflexes, where your initiative roll is automatically a nat 20. Basically, you're going first, unless for some reason someone else does a nat 20, and I don't know how this game sorts ties like that. I don't know if it's highest dex or highest bonus, or you roll a d6, but yeah, I mean, nat 20 initiative. The Sword Saint is a fan-freaking-tastic class. It is a weapon expert magic using class. I love this class. I love pairing it with support buff spells and just making yourself really good at kicking ass with your weapon. It's one of my favorite ways to go. Such a fun class to play with. Your intelligence bonus being added to virtually everything is huge on an intelligence-based spellcasting class. I would not take that lightly. This is a golden class. Probably one of my favorite in the game. Okay, so you've got the Magus, solid choice. Arcane Rider, which seems fun with your teleporting horse. We love a good teleporting horse. Armored Battle Mage, your Mage Tank, which is also super fun to play. Just magically enhanced steel trap, you know. Eldritch Archer if you're feeling ranged instead of melee, but basically the same. Eldritch Scion, which honestly is better than regular mages because bloodlines are dope, but if you don't feel charisma, you want that intelligence, that's up to you. Hex Crafter, my official Magus Plus, because it doesn't really take away much at all besides spell recall, and gives you the ability to do cool hex things, and hexes are awesome. Hexes are awesome. I love all the hex classes. Spell Dancer, if you're feeling niche, it's very, very niche situational bonuses. I don't think it's as good as weapon enhancement, but that's up to you to decide. Also, you have to play an elf. And then Sword Saint, one of the best archetypes in the game, bar none. Fan-freaking-tastic destroyer of worlds, okay? You get intelligence on crits, intelligence on initiative, intelligence to damage, intelligence to everything, on top of your dexterity. You're going to want to be a high dexterity class for this class though, for the Sword Saint, to really maximize your potential. Because dex and intelligence on top of like your AC and everything else when you can't wear armor on this class is going to be huge. Very cool class. This is the Magus. I hope my video has taught you a little bit something about the Magus and all that it can do. Hopefully you've figured out what seems cool to play, what seems interesting, really figure out how powerful this class is as it is. And yeah, thanks for watching. If you like it, give it a like, subscribe, hit that button please, and you know, have a good rest of your day. Check out other videos coming out as soon as I can make them. Enjoy your holidays. all you people. And yeah, I'm UnsungNPC, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.